Should I put down Gallery or Turf Trust Fertilizer first? When do I fertilize my Redbud tree? And does dormant seeding actually work? Folks, I've got answers to these questions and more coming up on Garden Sense. Hey everybody, I'm Tim Ward and welcome back to Garden Sense. Well, I teased this last video podcast, but actually today, October 29th, is the final video of the season. Now, we did get some emails this past week, but the email traffic has really slowed down. So we did select 3 that we want to review here on this final video podcast of the season. So buckle up everybody, let's jump right in. The first question is from Grace. Tim, I plan to apply the 4th fertilizer application in mid-November, along with a Gallery application as well. Does it matter which I put down first? So we get this question a lot, and one of the beauties of ProTrust products, specifically Turf Trust Fertilizers, Gallery, and Dimension, is that it does not matter the order in which you put them down. They're different products, they do different things. So in this case, for the 4th and final feeding, it doesn't matter if you want to put down Gallery first and then follow it up with the fertilizer, or if you want to put down the fertilizer first and follow it up with Gallery. Again, it doesn't matter because the products do different things. It's not going to create a negative interaction with your lawn or the environment depending on which you put down first. So it's just a preference thing. Personally, I always start with Turf Trust Fertilizers first. Just in my head, that's the most important to me, and so that's actually what I always put down first. Then I would put down Gallery. In the springtime, the timing's a little bit different. So again, I would put down Turf Trust, then I would put down Gallery, and then a couple of weeks later, I would put down an application of Dimension. But again, depending on where you are in the season, you can safely put down all 3 products the same day. It does not matter the order, and it's not going to negatively impact your grass. The next question is from Scott. Hi, Tim. Part of our new home landscape package included a redbud tree, which was planted late April. The tree still has its leaves. Do I fertilize now with Plant Trust or wait until spring when new growth pops? So you can safely fertilize it in the late fall. You can also safely fertilize your redbud tree in the very early spring. However, I prefer the fall feeding. And the reason for that is just the long-term health of the redbud tree. Now, once that redbud starts to lose its leaves, you actually want to get down an application of Plant Trust. The root system is going to absorb the nutrition that Plant Trust actually puts into the soil, but it's not going to do anything with it. Instead, it's actually going to store that nutrition and all of that energy in its root system, and it's actually going to strengthen the root system over the winter. Then what's going to happen as the temperatures warm up in spring, it's going to release that nutrition to be utilized by the rest of the tree, and the buds are going to be numerous, they're going to be plentiful, and it's going to be a much healthier tree. Now, if you don't want to do that and you just want to fertilize it in the early spring, then the best time to do that is once you actually start to see buds. So once you see those buds, you can safely put down Plant Trust, and the tree is absolutely going to benefit from that application. But in terms of just really strengthening that tree, really making it healthy, a fall feeding is the best for redbud trees. The final question for today is from a different Scott. Hi, Tim. Here is one thing that I have been hearing about and curious of your thoughts or opinion on: dormant seeding. Seed in late fall or early winter with expectations of germination come spring. This sounds great in theory, but how much seed waste is there compared to planting during the normal growing season? So yes, dormant seeding is a real thing, and I do know some people who will practice it from time to time, but my personal experience with this is that it can absolutely be a waste of money, especially if you're putting down expensive seed like Barren Brew Turf Saver. Folks, look, nature has been achieving dormant seeding successfully since the beginning of time. So it's a very real thing, and you can do it with grass seed. But the waste that you're going to see, the number of seed that will not germinate, is much, much higher than if you were to just follow the normal overseeding process in the fall that we always lay out. So Am I a fan of it? Not really. Am I completely against it? No, I'm not completely against it either, but I would never use like a Barenbroek Turf Saver seed for something like this because that seed is so expensive. If you want to get some cheaper seed, or you want to try something like a ryegrass, something that has a real quick germination rate, so on those, maybe a couple of those warm days over winter where the seed could actually start to germinate, that's fine. But again, this is not something that we generally recommend. There are a lot more factors that you can control when you actually overseed during the fall, and that's why we recommend we do it that way. All right, everybody, just a couple final thoughts before we wrap up this week's and this season's final video. Folks, we still have the fall feeding frenzy going on over at rosensonline.com. Now, I've been talking about this for a long time, so I'm not going to dive into the details, but I will tell you that it's going to be ending here very, very soon. So if you are planning on feeding your lawn that fourth and final feeding of Turf Trust come mid-November, make sure you head over to rosensonline.com right now and take advantage of all the savings. Also, if you're going to be fertilizing your trees and shrubs, specifically your deciduous trees and shrubs, obviously we just had a question about the Redbud tree, make sure you head over to rosensonline.com, order your bags of Plant Trust, and use the coupon code PT10 during checkout. That's going to allow you to save 10% on the cost of purchasing Plant Trust. There is no limit to how many bags you can apply that code to. So if you got a bunch of trees you want to fertilize, again, make sure you head over to rosensonline.com and take advantage of the savings. I also want to remind everyone that as you are beginning to bring in your plants from the outside, it's getting colder at night. Some of you are going to not be bringing them in just overnight. Some of you are going to be leaving them inside during the winter season. When that happens, make sure that you are applying Kickstart as a feeding mechanism for your plants. Again, there's actually some instructions on the back of the bottle on how to do that, but this is a great way to feed your indoor plants during the winter to keep them healthy, to keep that root system strong. And then obviously if you need to move them back out into the spring, they're going to be much, much healthier, and they're going to be able to deal with that transition in terms of the temperatures much more easily. Folks, as I said at the top of this program, today is our final video podcast for the season. We appreciate the hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of questions that we have received since early spring. Again, you have helped create these video podcasts each and every week, and that really does mean a lot to us. Don't worry, we're not going anywhere. So if you have questions, you can continue to send them. They're not going to be featured on our video podcast for a while, but again, we will always be here to help. Send your emails directly to me, tim@rosensonline.com, and I will do my best to get back to you in a very timely manner. Folks, thank you so much for the time that you spent today watching this video podcast. And thank you so much for all of the time that you have devoted to us this entire growing season. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of the week and an amazing rest of the year. God bless.